am sure that many of you have been keeping up with the unfortunate events taking place in Hong Kong. For those unaware, conflict has been swelling up in the territory as China continues to stifle the people. Protests began after China proposed the Fugitive Offenders and Mutual Legal Assistance in Criminal Matters Legislation Bill. In a nutshell, the bill guarantees that Hong Kong will provide mutual legal assistance involving fugitive indictment in any place outside of Hong Kong. The people believe that this proposition violates the one country, two systems principle that had been practiced since the 1980s. But what does any of this have to do with video games? Before we discuss the main topic at hand, allow me to further explain the Hong Kong protests. These protests are happening because of 4 distinct reasons, the primary reason being the bill discussed before. The other 3 triggers are as follows. Alleged misconduct involving the Hong Kong police force against protesters. This includes, but is not limited to, unlawful use of force, misuse of tear gas, inconsistent law enforcement, delaying first aid services, mistreatment of the detainees, interfering with press freedom, lack of identification, protest control tactics, climate of fear, and ill personal conduct of officers. Hong Kong mainland China conflict, political screening, economic and social inequality, which can be explained as the rising tensions between communist China and those who seek democracy in Hong Kong. The failure of the 2014 Umbrella Revolution. The Umbrella Revolution was a series of protests in 2014 in response to the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress decision on electoral reform regarding future Hong Kong Chief Executive and Legislative Council elections. Although the bill itself was enough to get things rolling, these other factors have had a great impact as well. In an effort to stomp out this revolution, China has only caused more and more people to sympathize with Hong Kong. Now that I've shed a bit of light on the protests themselves, let me begin to answer the question at hand. What does all this have to do with the video game tycoon Blizzard? Blitzchung, a professional Hearthstone player, was attending a tournament referred to as the Grandmasters. During an interview by streamcasters Virtual and Mr. Yi, Blitzchung, who had been wearing a mask reminiscent of those worn by the Hong Kong protesters, said, "Liberate Hong Kong, the revolution of our times." Both casters had hidden their faces behind their desk, which was not enough to stop the stream from being cut off shortly afterwards. The following day, Blizzard released a statement involving Blitzchung. He had been banned from the current event in question, as well as any future Grandmasters events for the next year. On top of the ban, he also lost his prize winnings, ranging anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000. According to Blizzard, they classified his statement as breaking their rules involving public image. In the rules of the Grandmaster tournament, he violated the rules stating that players are prohibited from doing anything that might bring themselves into public disrepute, offends a portion or group of public, or otherwise damages Blizzard's image. By using a Blizzard stream to voice his feelings, he had made Blizzard responsible for broadcasting his political statement, which went against the contract he had signed. Blizzard went on to say that although they respect their players' freedom of speech, players are still bound by the competition rules. Blizzard proceeded to also terminate their contracts with the 2 streamcasters under suspicion that they had encouraged Blitzchung's statement. Later, Virtual stated to PC Gamer, a popular gaming news site, that he and Mr. Yi were caught by surprise upon seeing Blitzchung's mask. They also had no idea that he planned on using the stream to express his support for the protest. Not even an hour after the banning was announced, the forums lit up with angry fans venting their anger at Blizzard. The company that once stood to be something better had fallen to the low scene everywhere, which did not have people happy. Players felt that their company had abandoned the morals that it had worked so hard to preserve, and in a small way it had. By censoring a player for his opinion, Blizzard had picked a side in the conflict, whether they thought so or not. Accusations of immoral data collection have also made an appearance on the forums. Players have now claimed that they've had to provide government-issued IDs in order to delete their accounts. This led to even more people believing that Blizzard sought to give China the names and identifications of those who did not support them, which only further added fuel to the fire. Before I continue, I would like to address the whole ID thing. It's under my belief that you've always been required to provide some form of identification when it came to deleting your account, mostly because of security. I mean, it really wouldn't be that hard to get your credentials and then simply delete your account. And a Blizzard account can have a lot of history to it. I could be wrong, but that's how I've always remembered it. I'm also pretty sure you had to provide identification when making your account, but then again, it's been so long since I've had to do that, I wouldn't be able to remember. Now, let us continue. Blizzard President Alan Brack composed a detailed response to the backlash the company was facing. Let me summarize it for you now. Brack began the article by confirming Blizzard's actions on the 7th. Blizzard had taken back Blitzchung's winnings and had banned the player for a year. They had also cut ties with the two streamcasters involved. This led into addressing the accusations that the company no longer held true to its belief of every voice matters. Brack went on to say that although their esports division was meant to bring the world together through epic entertainment, they still had an obligation to protect their channels. The stream in question was primarily meant to allow Blitzchung to discuss the competition, and although there was no rule stating that he could not share his opinion, he violated the rules by using Blizzard to express political views. By using a Blizzard-led stream to talk about controversial issues, he was, in turn, involving Blizzard as well, which was the problem. Brack made it clear that, quote,
"The specific views expressed by Blitzchung were not a factor in the decision we made. I want to be clear, our relationships in China had no influence on our decision."
According to Brack, the only factor that influenced the ban was the fact that Blitzchung had violated the rules that he had agreed to follow. The next point addressed was the claim of the prize money. Brack agreed that Blitzchung had technically won the competition fair and square, so it wasn't fair to take the winnings. But, in his words,
"Playing fair also includes appropriate pre- and post-match conduct."
He also clarified that his suspension had been changed to 6 months, not a year. This was followed by a statement saying that consequences still apply for taking the conversation away from the tournament. The article is closed by Brack saying that they plan to continue to apply tournament rules to basically keep something like this from happening again. After Brack responded to the situation, many bombshells went off within the community. Since the banning, several members of the Blizzard team have walked away from the company, including longtime developers of World of Warcraft. Players have also been banned after expressing their views on Twitter. On the 29th, Mitsubishi Motors pulled their sponsorships, which will likely result in more following. At the forums, you'll occasionally find people speaking out against Blizzard, but after the cleansing that took place the other week, it has died down quite a bit. Now, with all of this information in mind, I can see 3 possible avenues of thought. Blizzard was in the right line of thought for punishing Blitzchung. In order to preserve their relations with China, they cannot allow players to use their platform to speak against China. If China decided to blacklist Blizzard in their games, Blizzard would lose roughly 70% of their player base, as well as a large chunk of their professional players. Since China occupies a large portion of the player base, stifling players who seek to unintentionally damage the existing relationship would be the best way to go. Although the idea is unhealthy at its roots, the bigger picture must be considered as well. By silencing Blitzchung and those like him, Blizzard has gone against their own moral compass. Every voice must be heard, including those who might hold different views to yours. If Blitzchung believes that the Hong Kong protests are justified and in need of support, he has every right to be vocal about it, even if it means using his position to get the message across. By attempting to quiet those who agree with Hong Kong, they are acting less like the community they had tried to be, and more like a heartless corporation that only cares for money. Whether Blizzard is correct or not, they should not become involved in the matter. They said themselves that they wish to remain neutral. However, in banning Blitzchung, they have obviously shown that they side with China in the matter. At the same time, Blitzchung should not have used the interview about the competition to voice his feelings on the politics of Hong Kong and China. Either way, they both hold some blame to the fiasco. Now, which avenue do I agree with? Idea 3. Yes, I know it's somewhat of a cop-out in terms of picking sides, but let me explain. Blizzard has every right to enforce their rules, whether the rule broken was minor or major. Making exceptions would only promote further violations. If they allow Blitz to get away with breaking their rules, even if he broke said rules for a good reason, that would still open the avenue for further issues. For example, what if someone else later down the road used a Blizzard stream to say something equally, if not more, controversial? If Blizzard allowed Blitz to speak out in the past, they would have to let this instance go as well, which could create big problems. At the same time, Blitz was using his position of popularity to convey an important message. Not many people have the chance to speak in front of thousands of open ears. He was simply using the resources he had earned to talk about an issue more serious than video games and competition. Although it may not have been entirely appropriate to talk about the Hong Kong protests on a Blizzard stream, I can see where he was coming from. On top of that, Blizzard should not have been as hasty to lay down judgment. Brack said himself that they had rushed to patch up the issue without examining the consequences. A lot of this could have been avoided if they were more serious with their approach. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that Blizzard has an obligation to go overseas to Hong Kong and go toe-to-toe with China themselves. However, I am saying that a company like Blizzard can make a difference. A lot of people are familiar with Blizzard, which is why this entire situation is such a big deal in the first place. But Blizzard could very easily turn this around. It's just a matter of if they are willing to take a few hits.
Will Blizzard survive? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z, Blizzard defeated.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, although it was a bit different. If you'd like to see more like this, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.